The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline, a Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, how's it going?
Good, man. We are winding down the most boring All-Star weekend of all time for a Phoenix Suns fan, officially. In fact, is All-Star game going on right now? It's
soon.
We're starting this. We're basically hitting record here just before it starts. So that shows you how much interest we have in that this year. But yeah, we've got cooler things to talk about as we kind of wait here another week for basketball to start back up.
There is one Suns player involved today, and he just so happens to be the highest vote earner in the Eastern Conference, and that's Kevin Durant, who I think is picking his team right now as we speak. So we'll see how that ends up going. Funny, by the way, he earned that spot to pick the team based on being in the Eastern Conference, and now is in the Western Conference. It'll be an interesting race next year to see who gets more votes in the Western Conference out of Kevin Durant and LeBron James. See who can win that one. We got Mailbag. We asked for a bunch of questions. You ready? We have a lot.
It's been a while. You guys know the deal. When was our last one? Maybe summer?
It's been months. Yeah. I'm not sure when, but like it's been a while.
For those of you, if it's your first Mailbag, we will hit as many of these as we possibly can for the next hour. But no promises. Sorry about that.
I think there was, at the time we were recording, there was over 60
That's a lot.
replies. Yeah, so we can't get to that many, I don't think. But we'll get to as many as we can within an hour, maybe a little over an hour. And I clicked the tweet, and I'm going to go in order that Twitter decides. Elon Musk is choosing the order of these mailbag questions. If you're mad that your question wasn't read on the podcast, take it up with Elon. I think he can help you with that. Okay, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, our friend Alessandro Cozy said, what should be the Suns' next G League team's name, and where should they be based? What do you think about that?
I don't know about the name. Do you have an idea for the name? I mean, Northern Arizona Suns was boring, so I'll give him that. I think Mexico City would be really cool, man. I recognize that the ownership probably doesn't want it there because it's too far. They'd probably rather keep it local so that you can,
interesting.
Just have a guy hop on the highway basically and get passed back and forth between the big league club and the minor league club, so to speak. Mexico City would be really cool. That's all I'm saying. I mean, what are the other options you can do?
I want the team to be in Phoenix.
But you want the team to be like in Phoenix?
Yeah, in Phoenix. In town, using the same practice facility.
Okay.
The same trainers, the same everything, so that if they have to go directly from the G League team to the NBA, there's not a lot of
that's fine.
Shock.
I think using the training facility, that's really cool. That's the same facilities. That's awesome. Would you personally go to G League games of a Phoenix G League team if the games are taking place at the same time as Suns games?
If the Suns had an interesting player, I might go, yeah. Especially because they'd be,
I don't want to hear that you might.
A few dollars.
I don't want to hear that you might go. I want to hear that you will go.
Oh, I definitely wouldn't guarantee that. I think there's a chance. Let's talk about the name, though. So we got the Phoenix Suns, and we got the Phoenix Mercury, right? So there is like this sort of space theme, solar system theme going. Not really sure what other options there's going to be for another team, but if you want to stick within the solar system theme, I don't know. Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, Pluto. Does Pluto count?
The Tucson Pluto. Are there any professional sports in Tucson?
I don't think so. No.
Really? Yeah.
There's like one highway there.
I don't believe you. Also, we definitely have some listeners in Tucson who you just offended.
Oh, for sure.
So congrats.
They know.
Congrats.
They know.
I've heard Tucson's an underrated city. I'll check it out one day.
It's very much a college city.
And then I mean they
sports,
could put it.
They treat their college sports like professional sports there, which is cool.
The other option, of course, is they could put it back in Flagstaff, like with the old one.
Yeah, that's very true. And they could do something like that if they ended up bringing it back. They don't have to though, which is kind of interesting. The only team without one right now. So we'll see if they end up bringing that back. Matt Ishbia said they would, and yeah, they have an opportunity to do it. I'm sure it would save them a little money to keep it here. I think the question is, would people go to the games? And that's a fair question to ask. And I don't know. I really have no idea if that would be something they would do. Maybe they could use a different arena. There's some in Tempe. There's the Madhouse on McDowell, something they could use as well for G League games, which is where the Suns used to play back in the day.
I'm sorry, that
kind of fun to bring that back.
That's still again not local here. That's still operational. That thing exists.
It is, yeah,
huh.
Yeah.
What do
it's
they
on the state fairgrounds?
What do they use it for these days? Anything?
Concerts and stuff like that. The Mercury played there occasionally. If the arena was being used for something, they would just use that. So It's still there. All right, next question from Zin Varlock. Is Kevin Durant better as a PG or a center? So point guard or a center, which is, I think, maybe a sarcastic question, but also kind of interesting because he can play both of those positions. What do you think?
Is Kevin Durant better, or does Kevin Durant make the Suns better playing point guard or center? I'm going to choose to kind of answer it as the latter question, in which case I think the answer is the team is best if he plays at center. I think we need to see it. We need to see Kevin Durant at center at some point.
And then you can shift DeAndre into his natural position, which is, of course, power forward. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, I mean, like the Suns have multiple guys who can play point guard and DeAndre and who could play center, and then a couple other guys. Whereas Kevin Durant, I think that makes a lot of sense. We've talked a lot about it. Monty doesn't do it often, going small, quote unquote. But I think the thing about Kevin Durant is when you're going small with Kevin Durant at center, he's still 7 feet tall. So there's still a lot to be gained from going small with Kevin Durant at center. And I hope the Suns end up doing that every once in a while at the very least. Any other thoughts on that one?
Nope. We got 59 more to go. So
Alex Fuentes said, when everyone becomes healthy, KD, Payne, and Shamet, who do you believe will be in Monty's rotation? Not necessarily who should be in the rotation, but who do you think Monty plays? Which, of course, is referring to Landry Shamet, right?
Are we referring to regular season or playoffs? Is this?
I'm assuming let's just do regular season first, right?
Okay.
Which is not that much. But
that's fine. Who's going to be in Monty's rotation in the regular season? So the four main guys that everyone knows. I think we're going with Okogie as the fifth starter. We've said that.
I think so too, yeah.
Torrey Craig's
sure there's questions about that too.
Okay, so off the bench, if we're saying regular season, it's probably like more of a 10-man rotation, honestly. And to which end I would say Payne definitely soaks up some minutes. Shamet soaks up some minutes. I don't know. I think Terrence Ross has to be in there, though. I don't think they bring him in.
The question of who's going to play out of Shamet, Terrence Ross, and Damian Lee is going to be interesting.
And even
because if you want to play TJ, if you want to play TJ, if you want to play Torrey Craig, if you want to play Ish Wainwright, assuming he's able to play later, then it's going to be tough to find minutes for all three of Ross, Shamet, and Lee. So and one of those guys is going to have to earn that spot.
Backup power forward is going to be Torrey because Monty still likes Torrey, I think. But the 2-3 spots.
And he's good as a backup power forward. That's a good spot for him.
The 2-3 spots are really interesting because I actually do think, there's a pretty good chance that, honestly, the two guys who end up playing there are, in my opinion, again, it's not a question of who should, but maybe Monty goes with Landry and Ross, who I think are the two worst guys you could put in those spots.
Like I'd rather have Damian Lee and TJ Warren?
I would rather have Damian Lee for because I think he's the best shooter of the three, and TJ Warren because I think he's the most versatile scorer of the four. Maybe that's Terrence Ross. I don't know. But I still like some of the things that TJ does better. But I wasn't particularly encouraged by, TJ's first two games. I think they're just slowly working him into the rotation, or maybe it really turns into a situation where he's going to get 6 or 7 minutes per game. Like maybe that's actually who TJ Warren is going to be. Maybe he's going to be a non-factor in this rotation. I don't think that's how it should play out, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, I mean, it could be Terrence Ross and TJ Warren. It could just be new guys taking those spots, assuming they play well enough. TJ Warren has shown to be the best offensive player of that group at his peak, but he was injured for so long, we just don't know if he can get there. Shamet he's also been out for a long time, Landry Shamet. It is a foot injury, and we don't really know when he's coming back and how he's going to play after he comes back. So I think his spot is a little bit up for grabs, but I do think if he were healthy, he would probably own that spot just based on what we've seen from Monty in the past.
Yeah, it's precedent.
Yeah, and Damian Lee's been shooting badly and playing bad defense lately, so it's kind of tough to make the case for him at this point. But if he continues to shoot like he was early in the season, it's pretty easy to see a scenario where he makes a lot of sense with Kevin Durant.
If we're having this much trouble, I will say kind of forming out because center's a problem too. Like some nights he plays Jock, some nights he plays Biz.
Yeah.
If we're struggling this much to do a 10-man rotation, like the next question of what's it going to be in the playoffs when you need to cut it down to 8 or 9. And I understand you don't need to, but effectively you do. That's what teams do in the playoffs.
You got to find minutes for your best guys.
That's going to be impossible. I mean, we just don't know who the Suns' 6th, 7th, 8th best guys are at this point. And the next 20 games, I mean, there's a very high chance that it just kind of becomes a game of ride the hot hand. Like figure out going into the playoffs, we're not going to know until the playoffs who happens to be the hot hand off the bench. And that's who we're going with. And maybe we have to change things up a bunch of times on the fly, but it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I do think that it's a scenario where we have ideas of what's going to work and thoughts on what we think we're going to like. But Kevin Durant is such a game changer in how he plays. What people can do to fit around that will probably be even different than we can imagine in these next 20 or so games are going to showcase that. And I do think it's a tough position for Monty to be in because, man, people are definitely going to blame him after every game because he has so many options of players to play that people are, it's the first thing to do. He should have played more of this guy, should have played more of that guy. That's always what people say to blame the coach if the team loses. And he's in a scenario where, as much as people like to say depth is the biggest issue for the Suns, I do think there's a lot of talented players on this team that just happen to play a similar position, and it's going to be tough for him to find the right minutes for those guys. And, it's a good problem to have overall, and maybe it'll just depend on who Devin Booker and Kevin Durant like to play with, and maybe that'll be all it is.
Chris Paul, too.
Yeah, Chris Paul, too. And Chris Paul likes Torrey Craig, so, I think Torrey's in there, so. All right. John Phipps said, this is interesting, does Book average over or under 26.5 points for the rest of the season?
It's a good line. You want me to start?
Yeah. Yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to go under, like slightly. 26.
I thought you might.
He's at.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, we talked about it a little earlier.
you think I'm a hater? Is that what it is?
No, I understand it. I understand the logic.
He's at 26.6 on the season. He's, of course, only played 4 games since his return. He's at 22.8 in those 4 games, but on a minutes restriction. But we can maybe just kind of throw those out in general because it's just a completely different role to who he'll be.
Yeah,
with Kevin Durant on the team. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm going to go under. That's my answer. But like, where do we think KD is going to be? I know this isn't the question John asked, but is KD really capable of just coming into a team that he's never played with before? And like, is it stupid for us to assume that he's just going to average 30 points per game immediately? Or is there going to be more of an adjustment period for him?
Is there a team he couldn't come onto and average 30 points a game?
Right. Well, that's
I'm not sure there is.
That's what I think. That's what I'm tempted to say. But I suppose, are we discarding the idea too soon that Booker is somehow the number one scorer for the final 20 games of this season? Even though
no, that's definitely possible. I mean, he knows the system the most, and also, the Suns aren't afraid to use big, expensive stars as decoys in their offense. It's a possibility that Kevin Durant is what allows Devin Booker to be more open and take more shots. We need to see it in practice. I think my initial reaction to that is to say under, but I also think that there could be an increase in efficiency for him, which means he could take a shot less but still average more. There's a chance of something like that, or even going against a worse defender could mean more free throws for him, just guys who can't contain him on the drive and end up fouling him more. And that could be an increase in efficiency for him, just as easy as that. But I can't wait to find out. It's going to be pretty fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other thoughts on that one?
For sure. I'm tempted to say, probably Durant's number one scorer, 30 points per game. Probably Booker's at around 25, if I just have to throw numbers out there.
Which is just so crazy.
But it does feel like there's a decent amount of variance with those two guys. Anything could happen.
Definitely. All right. Yemi Ajibula said, do you see Monty changing his philosophy to adapt for KD? Feels like with all the wings and no Dario that they need to go to a more speed, small ball approach. Which actually, we're talking about ways to find minutes for other guys. Maybe just cutting some of Biz's minutes, cutting some of Jock's minutes, moving KD to center and allowing, TJ Warren, Torrey Craig, and all three of those guys to play together at once instead of trying to smash them into two positions on the team. What do you think?
That's a good idea. I think Monty has a more balanced approach. When we talk about changing philosophy, I'm not sure there's anything he really needs to change in his philosophy. How do you feel about that? Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for being as versatile as he has been over the past few years. We've seen him go small before. I'll admit.
Played at center for a year.
Yeah, Dario played center for a year. Has he gone big more often than he's gone small in the past few years? On the whole, yes. Like, if you balanced it as a ratio,
but they haven't had Kevin Durant.
Exactly. They haven't had the personnel.
They have DeAndre Ayton.
I am optimistic that Monty is, I think he continues to be a better X's and O's guy than he's given credit for quite routinely. And I think he's pretty aware of the personnel that he has on his hands now and the advantages of that. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I don't think there needs to be much of a change in philosophy, honestly. I think he's just going to do the right thing.
Yeah, I'm less optimistic. I do think that Monty will listen to the players. If Kevin Durant says, I need to play some minutes at center, he's going to play minutes at center. I think they'll find ways to do that. And that I think might be enough. So I do think that they will, and I think there's a good chance that he's forced to anyway. There's certain kind of matchups in the playoffs that end up coming about that will force his hand, and I think we could see that happening in the playoffs at the very least. I hope we see it though. You in our podcast where we talked about lineups, you talked about Devin Booker at point guard, Kevin Durant at center lineups with wings that switch everything, and it's just I want to see it. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, and just to reiterate,
you sold me on it.
just to reiterate, like when I talk about that or when we talk about that, we're talking about a handful of minutes in a game.
Of course.
It's not like Kevin Durant's still going to be the starting power forward for this team. He's going to play mostly power forward with maybe a little bit of small forward and a little bit of center sprinkled in. That's what the overall.
And DeAndre Ayton's going to play 30 minutes a game, and you have to find those minutes. So, yeah. We'll see. That's going to be fun. Chris Anderson asked, what would your final roster spot decisions be? Are you for or against cutting players like Biz, Landale, or Saban? If so, who would your prime targets be to replace them? Now, one thing I will clarify, Saban leads on a two-way. Those spots aren't allowed to play in the playoffs anyway. No reason to cut Saban at this point, keeping him around in case something happens to Chris Paul or campaign. And obviously, I think there's one main roster spot that you left out there. Just cut Darius Bazley if you want another guy. He's not going to play, and he's probably not part of your future. You traded for him to save money. Not that good of a player, to be honest. I understand the idea of his versatility defensively. Probably not going to get minutes regardless. Too young, not ready. Cut Bazley if you want another guy. And then, you can bring in somebody like Ish Wainwright. And I'll let you, Sam, talk about if you have any other options to sign guys. Because if you cut Baze, you have two spots. That means you can promote Ish and bring another guy in.
Yeah, I don't really see that. That's fine if you want to cut Baze and you want another spot. Right now, I'm tempted to just say bring back Ish using the final spot and kind of leave the roster as is. We talked about Stanley Johnson in the past. He's similar to Ish. I think he's good, but he's a similar archetype. How'd you feel about Kevin Love, real quick, now that he went to the Heat?
I think there might be a question about him, but I will say that I think he wanted to play, and I don't think he was good enough to crack the rotation pretty regularly for the Suns. I think he would have been sort of in case you need him, in case of foul trouble kind of player on the Suns. So, I think he would have been really great for the locker room as far as a guy who's won a championship, has been there, is on the same page as James Jones, probably would get along really well with Monty Williams, is a likable player. But yeah, we didn't have the minutes for him,
Yeah, so, I would think we could have made the minutes. I think there were questions there for sure, but out of all the guys, all the kind of former greats, I don't know if you'd call Kevin Love, a former great, former All-Stars who have.
He's gonna be a Hall of Famer.
Is he?
Yeah, for sure.
The Basketball Hall of Fame is crazy, man. Kevin Love, what is he, like a 3-time All-Star, 4-time?
He's a champion. Yeah, probably
okay.
4-time
A
All-Star.
one-time champion as a
lots of rebounds
as a like the number 3. Like that's
there was that one play where he guarded Steph.
Yeah, no, I like. Kevin,
I'll remember it the rest of my life.
I like Kevin Love. It's just the Basketball Hall of Fame is next level nuts. But out of all the options of like guys in recent years who make themselves available on the buyout market, these former All-Stars, if you will, he's the guy who again in recent years I feel like he actually has something left to give. Like he maybe has some juice left in the tank, and I don't often feel that way about these types of players. But yeah, I'm not crying over it. It's.
I mean, the Cavs didn't think so, right? And like he's loved there, and he broke his thumb. This is a real issue. Is he broke his thumb and his shooting went away, and once his shooting went away because his defense isn't there, really, I think there's just a lot left over. Like if the thumb heals and he starts to shoot well by the playoffs, then I think you get something there. Then you get a guy who's basically 7 feet tall that can shoot threes, which the Suns don't really have except for Kevin Durant. So yeah, I'm not broken up over it.
He's at 35% on threes. It's not great.
Yeah.
But like he's a career 37%. Like is that terrible? You know what I mean?
I mean, from what I've heard, it's not good. The thumb is not good.
Yeah.
Is what I'll say.
So anyway, he's off the table. And I mean, I guess just like looking at the rest of the buyout market, like I don't know, what else is there for this team? Will Barton? What does that do? Like I like Will Barton, but like, what does that do for this rotation? It's just another guy at a position where we already have a bunch of guys who are solid. There's no point.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Jeff Allen said, "How much should we expect T.J. Warren to contribute come playoff time?" I'll start there. I think there's a chance he's not even part of the rotation, so I wouldn't expect too much. You know, if he starts to play well, he has to earn it. But I don't know that we need the offense from him as much as we need defense from other guys. So I'm not going to, especially if we have Ish there. Like, there's a chance Ish Wainwright plays over TJ Warren. That wouldn't surprise me.
We can be honest, though, in saying, like, I think TJ is the biggest boom or bust candidate out of all these guys.
Yeah.
Like, who else on the, maybe Campaign at his best. Other than Campaign, I'm not sure there's another guy on the Suns bench who his ceiling is being like a starter. Like he can be a starting caliber player when he's playing at his best. That's still kind of what you're maybe clinging on to hope. Yeah, Biz. I mean, he could start and play 15 minutes per game and use 5 fouls. But but like TJ could still go and get buckets for a lot of mediocre teams out there. And so in a way, now they would be mediocre teams, but in a way it's a privilege to have him on a team like this. Does that mean they need his scoring necessarily, or that they're going to use him for 15, 20, 25 minutes per game in the playoffs? No, because he really, as you were saying, he really needs to prove himself as a defender. He really needs to prove himself as a 0.5 system guy who can move the ball and isn't just taking shots away from other players who are better than him. But if he can prove those things to Monty, he can play a big role for sure. I don't know. We haven't seen it yet, but we could see it.
Yeah. He has time. I actually think he deserves minutes now in the regular season, just so you're not overplaying guys. And say they do end up running the Chris Paul, DeAndre, and with bench lineups that I've mentioned before in the past. I think TJ Warren makes a lot of sense with those, just as another guy who could potentially grab it and go. Offensively, whether it be at the 3-point line or in transition or something like that, I think he makes a lot of sense there. But the other part with him is, will he be healthy by the time the playoffs come? And, that's a fair question to ask about a lot of players. But TJ Warren, I would say, is the biggest question mark of all the players on the Suns right now. So we'll end up seeing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was out of the rotation entirely. There's only going to be 8 or 9 guys, probably. That means there's good players probably not playing for the Suns in the playoffs. I'm sure we'll have more questions on that in a second. Cage, our friend Ridiculous Cage, said, the Suns have been in the bottom of the league at free throw attempts per game for a while now. Will KD finally push us to the top of that? And when was the last time the Suns had two players average at least 6 free throw attempts per game? What do you think, Sam?
It's a really good stat. It's a really good question. Sorry, I need to look up stats to answer it. I'm inclined to say that KD alone is not going to push us to the top. So the Suns rank 27th in free throw attempts per game at 21.5 attempts. And I don't know, I need to look up more stats to answer this. Like what
Okay.
what is KD average? Like 7 free throw attempts per game or something?
Probably something like that.
And
I think
what did McHale and Cam average combined? Like 4?
Yeah, probably.
Let's say we need some.
I mean, not much.
We need some quick maths.
Yeah, McHale was going up, like he was going the right direction. In that,
okay,
in recently.
So let's just say that's true. Like, let's say that's roughly true, and you're getting a net impact of +3 free throw attempts per game based on this trade. KD's going to get to the free throw line more often than those two guys. That would push the Suns up to around 24.5, maybe 25 at most free throw attempts per game, which puts them, we're just guesstimating here, but like just outside of the top 10. So they're not going to be the Sixers. They're not going to be one of the, big time free throw. Actually, the Sixers aren't even in the top 10 either. That's really surprising. They're not going to be the Detroit Pistons, who apparently rank first in the NBA in free throw attempts per game this season. But they will be much, much better in terms of their rim pressure. Absolutely. They'll be in a place where they have not been in many years at this point.
For the record, James Jones doesn't really believe in free throw basketball. He said as much recently. He said it just doesn't work in the playoffs. He's really just admitted to that. He doesn't care about that much.
I think it's foolish. I think
I think it makes sense, but I know what you mean.
I think it's foolish. I think there's something to it in that you look often at the teams. There are a lot of really good teams that don't shoot a lot of free throws necessarily. The Celtics are another great example. They were a contender last year.
The
They're
Warriors.
a contender this year. Yeah, they're jump shot teams. That's fine.
Yeah,
but in a lot of cases, when it comes down to a team that can consistently get, like, that has its bread and butter at the rim versus a team that can't do that, like we saw 2 years ago with the Suns-Bucks finals matchup, the team that can generate the easier basket on average is going to be most of the time the team that wins. And so, like, it's just not something that you can neglect. There definitely are teams at the top that focus too much of their offense on getting to the free throw line. Being top 10 in free throws per game or whatever is by no means a guarantee to being good. That's why you see the Pistons at the top of this list. But that doesn't mean it's something you can completely neglect in your roster construction, just for so many reasons. It's easy offense. It boosts your efficiency. Every time you go to the free throw line, it allows your defense a chance to get set in the playoffs. That's huge. Just to cast it aside entirely is stupid.
Here's why I think I disagree. If you have somebody like Giannis, then yeah. But if your star players that you're already building around don't really do that, it doesn't really make sense to invest in role players that do that, because I just don't. I mean, how many of those really matter in the long run over, say, focusing on defense and shooting and things like that? That, I think, matters more if your role players are doing it.
Well, role players not necessarily, but getting a star player like Kevin Durant versus hoping that Mikal Bridges, who, again, we love Mikal Bridges, but Mikal Bridges is never going to be, at least I don't think, a 7-8 free throw attempt per game guy. I just don't think he has that mindset. So just understanding at the top that you have to upgrade your roster. That's all we're asking for.
All right. So I looked it up while we were talking here. I have the last time two Suns players averaged 6 free throw attempts per game in a season. Would you like to guess what year it was?
90s?
It was the 90s.
93?
It was 95-96.
Okay. And it was Barkley and KJ?
It was Barkley and KJ. That's exactly right.
Nice.
And before that...
Too easy.
Before that, it was 1989-1990.
And that
with
was
KJ and
Chambers.
Tom Chambers. Yeah, and they did it the previous season
Tom
as well.
Chambers, a guy who was not afraid of contact, I think.
It's only happened 4 times in Suns history. So yeah, this could be one of the times. It goes all the way back to Dick Van Arsdale and Connie Hawkins in the past. So it's a long time ago. Yeah, and that could happen this year. We'll see if the refs are on the same page as the Suns when it comes to that. All right, Kai asked, which Western Conference playoff matchups would you most want to avoid? And then he has more questions related. How comfortable are you with the Suns matching up against long and or athletic teams? Can the Suns fix defensive rebounding issues? And now that the Warden is gone, who has the best nickname? Oh, that's interesting. That's Durant, right? Slim Reaper, Durantula.
No one actually calls him Slim Reaper, though.
It's so good, though. It's really good.
We
really should have co-opted it for Mikhail.
Terrence Ross has a nickname. We neglected to bring it up, and I forget what it is.
That's right. What
the
is
Human
it?
Torch. It's not bad.
That's right. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. Booker doesn't really have one, right?
No, he's just Book.
Yeah, Book's a nickname, and it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
Technically, yeah. What Western Conference playoff matchup would you like to avoid?
I mean, if someone could take out the Nuggets for us, that'd be great. Assuming that he's not talking about the 1 seed and is more interested in like other matchups. I think there's a question mark about every single one of these teams. But I think if you run into a fully healthy Pelicans team with Zion actually playing, it's a big if. Or if you run into the Clippers, I think the Clippers are still solid. So those are the two teams. If we met those two teams in the first round, I don't think it would be an easy series. I'll put it like that.
I mean, there's a Warriors caveat for me, but I agree. Because the Warriors, you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen with the Warriors. We want to play the Kings, right? At this point, is that where we're at?
Yeah, the Kings would be fun
in the first round at the very least.
Well, the Kings would need to slip a little bit. Who's in what are the standings right now? Hold on, I should be checking these every day.
Now we're going to have to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, right now, man, the 4 Clippers are 4, Mavs are 6, Pelicans are 7. Those are like the most likely teams that we would play in the first round as of today. And I think we're the favorite in all 3 of those, but I don't love any of those matchups. Like, I don't think any of them are going to be sweeps. So if the Timberwolves could gain some ground, they're in 8th right now. That could be fun. Or the Kings. The Kings or the T-Wolves.
That's a good one.
The Kings or the T-Wolves are like the only 2 teams in the West I think we actually have no beef with yet. We could invent beef.
Devin Booker was talking a lot of shit the last time the Suns played the Timberwolves. Well, the last time Devin Booker was playing the Timberwolves.
Well, if you play any of these teams in a 7-game series, it's like
they're going to hate us.
We didn't hate the Pelicans last year, and then you find ways to invent beef, or the other fan base finds ways to invent beef.
That's true.
It would happen. But like all these other teams, we have a history with the Clippers. We have a history with the Mavs. We have a history with the Pelicans. We don't really have a direct history with the Warriors, but it would be a gritty series. So, any of those would be pretty bloody.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. I think we're on the same page there, and I think it could change after we see the team actually play together. Related, how comfortable are you with the Suns matching up against longer athletic teams? I think the Suns are favored against everyone in the West if they get into a series with them. I hate to be that guy now, but they have 2 superstars, like absolute top 10, 15 players,
It is just...
And no other team does.
It's just significantly harder for those types of long athletic teams. I still think a long athletic team has a better chance against the Suns than a not long, not athletic team. But how much harder is it for those teams now to focus in on 1 elite ball handler and 2 other elite scorers all at the same time? Most teams just don't have the personnel, whereas they used to just be able to trap Booker and that was it. Call it a day.
The Suns have 3 elite ball handlers now. Just throwing it out there. It's just a tough thing to try and figure out how to match up against. I guess that question is sort of, would you feel more comfortable against the Kings or the Clippers? And as we said, the Kings and the Clippers are the long, semi-athletic team, but long.
Dude, imagine.
And I think they're a little scarier.
Imagine the Kings trying to defend us.
I just can't. I don't know what they do. Yeah. Like, you start with just the fact that Sabonis can't defend Ayton, and then you go from there. You still have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul.
No, I mean,
it's just tough to imagine.
They've had a nice season, and I legitimately am rooting for them and their fans, but
they're a likable team.
They'd be a wrap. I mean, like that's the matchup you want. If you could choose anyone in the conference, it's that.
Can the Suns fix their defensive rebounding issues? I mean, Durant will be the best rebounding power forward we've had in a long time, right?
Yeah. I'm not worried about rebounding for the last 20 games of the season, to be honest.
And I think, rebounding wise, Durant might not be in there all that much. I don't think he's getting any offensive rebounds. I mean, he might, but he's shooting a lot of jump shots, so he's not near the basket as much.
Keep in mind, Josh Okogie.
I'm just not worried about it. Yeah.
Keep in mind, Josh Okogie is also rebounding like the greatest rebounder ever recently. So on the offensive glass in particular, he's been awesome.
He's basically a tiny Dennis Rodman for this team.
You say that.
That's
he's like 2 inches shorter than Dennis Rodman. You know what's insane, dude? Josh Okogie is Charles Barkley's height.
That's so wild.
Right? They're both 6'4".
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Barkley was listed as like 6'5", 6'6", but was he really?
Yeah. Wow. And then we got to the nickname question. I don't know, actually. Did we get to the nickname question? Are there any other?
We said we threw out Terrence Ross. I don't think there's anyone else who's great on the team.
Point God. I mean, that's one. The point God. That's pretty good. You don't like dominating?
It's fine. No one actually calls him that. What was our nickname if Sharch?
He has it tattooed on his back.
If Sharch were still on the team.
The Crockpot.
The Crockpot was pretty good.
I don't think we ever broke that out on the podcast.
I think that was just a playback thing.
That was a playback exclusive. We called, he's the Crockpot because he cooks people, but it takes a long time for him to do it. All right, Will Reap said, interested in perceived playoff defensive matchups. Who guards Luka or Kawhi? And then I love the idea of KD's rim protection, but I feel we might need him more to be on ball in multiple scenarios. What do you think?
I think KD guards Kawhi.
I think KD guards both of those guys.
You think KD guards Luka? I think Okogie guards Luka if he's going to be the fifth starter.
Okogie's going to guard Kyrie.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I think you got to put KD on him. You could put Devin Booker on him. You could put whoever else you might.
God,
I don't know.
Booker,
really your only options.
Booker guarding Luka for that series.
Booker did well against him.
I'm not saying it would be bad. I'm just saying you must watch basketball. Like the narratives. That's so fun.
And the thing about Kevin Durant's rim protection, just for the record, I think you're right. He does have to be on the ball in certain scenarios, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not also protecting the rim. Luka doesn't shoot every shot. If he's guarding Kawhi doesn't shoot every shot. You have to find time for him to be a rim protector on the weak side if guys get past any of their matchups on the other side. So I'm not really worried about that. I think he can do both of those things. I do think, KD guarding Luka is a fascinating prospect that we could see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
That would be.
Don's Bread said, which player would you want by your side in a zombie outbreak? I don't know if you know about this, Sam. Do you know why that question is asked?
Is he a Last of Us fan? I don't know.
Somebody asked Kevin Durant this at the All-Star break at one of the festivities. And Kevin Durant made a very weird face and was like, why are you asking me that? And then he paused for a second and then said, DeAndre Ayton.
I did not see that.
And then they moved on. And actually, you know who I would pick? Chris Paul. He's a psychopath, and you kind of want a psychopath by your side. I feel like Chris Paul is going to survive. If anyone is going to survive.
Which player on the roster is most likely to be a doomsday prepper? I think I would want Bismack.
That's an interesting question.
I think Busy would know what's up.
Yeah, Busy. I mean, Busy's strong. I think the idea of Ayton was like a big, strong guy next to you too.
I think Busy's strong. He's on his shit. He's a hard worker, and he's also funny. I think he kind of checks every box. That's my pick.
Yeah, if you have DeAndre Ayton and you're like, hey, DeAndre, I'm gonna go to sleep for a while. Can you watch out while I go to sleep? And if he just loses focus, like he tends to do every once in a while, then you're both dead. At that point, you're both zombies.
As long as we're talking about it, you are watching Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It rules.
It rules. It's really good.
T-Bolt said, is Josh Okogie a better defender than Mikal Bridges?
Is Josh Okogie a better?
No. Yeah.
Sorry. But a better... No, he's not.
No, he's not. He's just not. Mikal Bridges can neutralize a pick and roll 5 times a game by himself. just completely neutralize it. And there's just very few players that can do that, because his long arms, his brain. If Josh Okogie had Mikal Bridges his body, he might be better because of how relentless he is.
Josh Okogie's heart is ridiculous. I mean, just his sheer willpower. It's absurd. I don't think we've seen it since maybe Javon Carter was the last guy who actually I think Mikal's won the Marley Hustle Award before, and Mikal hustled. He deserved that. But like guys like Javon Carter or Josh Okogie or these guys that you see sometimes, these hustle guys, they're on another level in terms of his willingness.
Yeah. Number one Mikal Bridges fan asks, who's our backup big man in the playoffs? Jock, Bismack, or KD? What do you think?
Cop-out answer to say that it's matchup dependent, right?
I don't know that it would be. I don't know, actually. Part of me thinks it might be Jock, just because I think Bismack, as good as Bismack is, there is a liability issue with him in the playoffs in that just foul him and he shoots 30% from the free throw line.
You can't play Biz in the fourth quarter of a playoff game for that exact reason.
Yeah. So, and Jock still does the thing where he punishes switches on the inside, pretty well as far as, playing against bench lineups. I don't think he could do it very well as a starter, but he does it pretty well playing against bench lineups. So I think it's probably going to be a combination of Jock and KD. That'd be my guess. Bismack could still get minutes though, especially, if the Suns make the finals against the Bucks, they're all going to play. They're all going to play and just kind of eat their fouls.
The two of them have been so weird recently. Just the last game, Jock played 4 minutes, and
looked bad. Yeah,
and Biz played 12. I don't know. They've flip flopped a lot recently. It's really hard to say.
I think they both earn minutes. They're both good backup centers for any team, I think, and they both earn minutes. So it's kind of a tough situation for Monty to be in, where he doesn't want any guy to sit for too long. So he just kind of alternates playing each guy in 5-game bursts, and then the other guy will come in if one of them doesn't have it, which is kind of tough, I think, for those two guys. And it's credit to them. They always say about Bismack, he's always ready. Mm-hmm. If he needs to play, he's always ready, and that's not an easy thing to do, I think, to not know what your role is going to be but still be ready. Rice says 8-man playoff rotation for two matchups.
Here it is.
Nuggets and Bucks.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Nuggets and Bucks. You start.
I think you're going to play more than 8 guys against the Bucks, as I just talked about, because you're going to throw different guys at them. We can start with the Nuggets. I think you got the 4 main guys.
Okay.
I would say we can say there's 4 guys, and then there's probably a few that will play as well. Okogie, I think, is probably going to be one of those guys. Cameron Payne,
yes,
I think is going to be one of those guys. Yep. And I think one of the bigs, so Jock or Bismack.
Biz.
So that's
yep.
or that's 7.
That's 7 right there.
And then you can say Torrey Craig, and that's 8. And you can probably say that for both of those matchups. Beyond that, you got Terrence Ross, you got Landry Shamet, you got TJ Warren.
I think
Damian Lee.
One of those 4 wings will play, but maybe only one of them if we're building out a 9-man rotation, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, right? It's a funny thing to talk about how people focused on the Suns having depth issues. And I get it to some extent. There's no traditional 6th man for this team unless Cameron Payne could get back to his best basketball. But they still have a bunch of players where there's going to be players that would play for other teams not playing on the Suns in the playoffs, for sure. And that's going to be an interesting situation for them to be in. And that's both teams, right? I think the Bucks, you can probably say Jock and Biz will play because you just have this gigantic monster going 100 miles an hour at you in the paint.
Well, actually, we might be able to say the same thing about the Nuggets.
Yeah, I guess.
Jokic
it just
plays
depends
in a
on foul
different way.
trouble.
Yeah, it's just
he doesn't draw fouls the same way.
It's true.
Yeah. The Foot Clan said, "How long is our title window with our current roster construction?" And then on another question related to that, can we stretch CP3 next year and pick up another star, i.e. Kyrie Irving? No, it does. You don't have cap space no matter what.
Even if we stretch. First of all, Chris Paul doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money left anyway. But yeah, there is no way for the Suns to create cap space next year, no matter how many guys they get rid of.
of the Suns' 3 biggest contracts just kind of eats up the entirety of your cap space. You don't have any room for a star.
Your only hope would be a sign and trade in the Kyrie situation specifically. Personally, I don't want Kyrie, but that would be your only option. And even that would be really difficult to orchestrate with the pieces they now have. So,
I want to answer the question this way. How long is our title window with our current roster construction? Our current roster construction, our title window is this year. If the Suns do not win this year, the only 2 players I think will be back for certain are Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. That's it.
Are you even certain about Kevin Durant? What if he requests another trade?
The only 2 players I think the Suns will want back for certain are Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So just to be clear, I think Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton have to play very well this year. If the Suns don't win a title this year, I think both of them could be on the trade market.
Ayton especially because he's kind of the only quote-unquote positive trade asset that the Suns have left.
He's the last bullet in their gun.
Yeah, they don't have picks, really. They don't have prospects. If they want to, and they are not going to have cap space. So their only avenue for future improvement is to sell someone else on the potential of DeAndre Ayton if they want to pivot off him if he doesn't play up to his potential.
Yep.
It's going to be tough.
I'll say it here real quick. Brian Windhorst mentioned that the Suns were considering Kyrie and KD, and that may not be over. They could revisit it again in the summer. They don't have the cap space. So the only way they could potentially do it, as you mentioned, Sam, is a sign and trade. That would mean likely DeAndre Ayton going to the Mavs, who supposedly the Mavs like, in DeAndre Ayton and Kyrie coming to the Suns. If Kyrie came to the Suns, because it's a sign and trade, that would hard cap them and make it very hard to build the team. Outside of that, I just don't see a clear path to getting Kyrie Irving on the Suns unless he signed. There's a chance he could sign a deal with the Mavs and then just request out in the middle of the next season, and then the Suns could try to trade for him at that point. But yeah, I guess that would be pretty difficult as well. So
I'm just still thinking about this question. Could I also suggest? I know you said this year. That's your answer. My answer, I think, the Suns' title window or championship window is going to last as long as Kevin Durant's career lasts, potentially. I think I'm thinking about the fact that Chris Paul had so much left to give this team when we first acquired him, even though people thought he was already washed. And he was a major part of a finals run at, what was it, age 36? KD is... Durant is different, to use a quote directly from Booker. If we thought Chris Paul was one of those all-time greats whose game aged tremendously gracefully compared to the average guy, Durant has that capacity as well. I understand there are health issues, but KD's only 34. He's signed for 3 more years.
Yeah.
This window could be pretty open. It could be open for a while.
I mean, you still have 2 superstars, right?
Kevin Durant.
I just think that the construction that the roster is this season.
For sure.
And it's a good chance because that's 4 great players.
We're talking, especially with how wide open the league is. We need to focus on this season, and I don't want to think even too much about the future right now, but I also just feel like we could be here 3 years from now in 2026, and Kevin Durant will be 37, and he'll still be averaging 25 points per game.
Yeah.
And he could still be wearing a Phoenix Suns uniform. That's totally possible. He's one of those guys. He defies the odds. He's one of the all-time greats.
And I think that puts so much pressure on the front office because DeAndre Ayton hasn't played defense very well this year. He has played better in the last few weeks, but not very well throughout this year. If he continues to play bad defense this year, you don't screw around. You have Kevin Durant now. You have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. You don't screw around. You trade him. If Chris Paul can't play in the playoffs for another year, and it just doesn't appear that he'll ever be able to stay healthy throughout the playoffs anymore, you can't screw around with that anymore. You can't. You have to move on. You have to find other opportunities, other options. Yes, it's going to be hard, but you have to find the best chance for those 2 guys to win a title if it doesn't happen this year. This is a very good chance for them, though. They do have a very good chance this year. Lev says, going into the postseason, what's more important for us, seeding or building the right rotations and chemistry? That's a good question because there's a scenario where they experiment and drop in the standings.
Yeah, but is that really going to happen?
Probably not.
I just think any way that
it's a very weird year for the standings in the West.
Also, I think that the roster is pretty rock solid at this point. Yes, I understand their depth questions and whatever, but I can't think of many ways that they could experiment with these last 20 games that would specifically tank a game. Right? Like, what's the worst that could happen? You play KD at center for 6 minutes one game and it doesn't work, and you don't do it again. You know, like, okay. I don't know.
I hope I try more than once for that one.
Seeding's pretty important. I mean, if we're going up against the Clippers or the Mavs first round, I want that extra home game. Not that it helped us with the Mavs last time, but neither here nor there.
Fair. Bazir said, reaction to Kevin Love going to the Heat. I think we covered that one, so I'll move on. Shout out to Bazir. Thanks for the question. Dan Dune said, what moves would you like to see the Suns make to address their future point guard position, given that we don't have any more firsts to use this year?
That's really interesting.
Trade. I mean, do you want to save that one? Because, like, I don't know.
I haven't picked out names at this point. Again, it's hard because we don't have any cap space right now, so I feel like that's really more of a trade question. It's interesting. Yeah, we'll probably have to do a segment on that.
Yes, I agree. And he also said, if Chris Paul regresses slightly, so he's playing at a similar level than he is right now, but not as good, do you think the Suns try to trade or cut him? No, I think if he regresses slightly but continues to play, he's still pretty good for what your salary situation is. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think they're going to cut him for sure.
What time are we at? We got 50 minutes. All right, we got time.
We're making good time.
Yeah. Matt Austin said, rank which 3 players aside from the big 4 that will play the largest role for this team when it's all said and done. I think we kind of did that, but I'd like to hear what you think. Payne?
Okogie.
Yeah. Okogie.
Not one of the centers. One of the centers is guaranteed to play, but the biggest role?
It could be which one, yeah. Craig?
Yeah, I guess Craig. He's just going to fill. He fills in the gaps. He doesn't excite you.
This is an example of the boomer bust TJ Warren, because it could be TJ Warren.
Could be TJ Warren. Could be Payne, TJ Warren, Okogie.
Yeah. It could be Terrence Ross if he just is lights out from 3 for the rest of the season.
Could be Landry Shamet.
Yeah.
Off-ball chaser defense.
That's right.
The percentiles.
Setting screens for Kevin Durant.
The basketball index percentiles. They're good. Sorry, I'm teasing you a little bit. But it could be Landry Shamet.
Dude, I've been out on Landry Shamet for weeks. Months at this point, but yeah. I think everything in how we viewed the team previously, where everyone had to maximize their roles in order for the Suns to win, that view of what the team is and what they could be has shifted because Kevin Durant's on the team. So the importance of Landry Shamet before was, believe it or not, more than it is now, even though the depth is different than it was before. Because now he has to do certain things for the Suns to be good. He doesn't have to expand what that is. He has to actually shrink what it is, which is good for the Suns. Still scary to rely on him in any way, though. Brad says, after the recent moves, what's the biggest question mark for each of you heading into the playoffs? That's interesting.
Should I say the obvious one is health?
Yeah, it's got to be health.
Yeah, that's what everyone else is going to hold over our heads. And most criticisms that get lobbed the Suns' way right now, I feel like we have a trump card for them. But if someone says Chris Paul and Kevin Durant can't stay healthy, I mean, it's an annoying argument because it's like speculation and there's no analysis to give, really. But you can't necessarily say they're wrong either. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I'll push back on one thing. People have said if one of those guys gets injured, it's over. And I think that's partially true in that it kind of makes sense, except that was the case before, and I actually think they have a roster built to potentially, for example, Devin Booker missed a few games in the first round against New Orleans and the Suns still won. Zion was injured, whatever, so that is what it is. But say the Suns play the Kings in the first round, Devin Booker now misses 2 games again in the first round. They still have Kevin Durant, and I actually feel more confident in the Suns to be able to overcome that than if Devin Booker were to miss 2 games with the team that the Suns had before Kevin Durant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
It just feels like having 2 superstars is better than having one if you do get injured, because there's a chance that if you have to get carried for 2 games, you still have a guy who could do it.
Also,
and Durant actually did that in Brooklyn.
Chris Paul's great
previously.
He still has a lot to give. But if he went down, they're not fucked. They have Kevin Durant.
If he went down, they might not win a championship.
I don't know. I think they could.
They could.
I mean, everything would
I'm
need
not
to
as
click.
scared of getting knocked out immediately.
Payne would need to play at such a high level, the highest level he's ever sustained for 2 weeks, but it could happen. Whereas if KD goes down, we're talking about a different level of, like, yes, you would have reason to be pessimistic.
All right. Let's see. I believe this name is pronounced Sesha, maybe, says, do you think Monty will continue to run all bench lineups now that we have 2 stars and 3 legitimate ball handlers? Or will he leave one of Durant, Booker, Paul on the floor at all times? Dear God, I hope he leaves one of them on the floor at all times.
I feel like there's a guaranteed 4 minutes per game in the early second quarter in the playoffs where Landry Shamet somehow is going to be like leading an all bench unit, and we're all going to rip our hair out. Like, it's going to drive us to suicide.
Would you rather... Now, I have a question added to the mailbag. Would you rather have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant both play the entire first quarter, then start the second quarter with Chris Paul and DeAndre and then finish with both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on the floor, but maybe not Chris Paul, like maybe Cameron Payne ends the half, and then you figure out how to change that up in the second half? Or would you rather have Devin Booker play 6 minutes into the first half, come out, and then play the entire second quarter? Sort of flipping what he did previously. Because right now what he does is he plays the entire first quarter, comes in with about 5-6 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah. So in the second
or
scenario...
Durant, I guess it could be.
In the second scenario, Book plays the entire second quarter.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul and Ayton they're still starting the second quarter together, just with Book?
Potentially. You can... I guess
what do you prefer? I'm not sure I have a preference. Obviously.
I don't know either. I've been thinking about this a lot, just trying to figure out what the smartest rotation is. And, there is some merit to just maximizing the amount of time you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker on the floor at the same time. You have those guys on the floor at the same time for 18 minutes, 17 minutes, a half. That's tough for any team to try and figure out how to handle. But then the other idea of that is you have one of both of those guys on the floor at all times. And is that better when you also have Chris Paul, who could potentially just run the bench lineups? I'm not sure. It might be better to maximize their time together and trust Chris Paul and DeAndre and to just run those pick and rolls as much as possible in like the beginning of the second quarter, end of the first quarter.
I do sense a good small segue point here in that maybe it's good in the sense that Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton playing more together without the other two guys forces Ayton into more of a sink or swim situation. Also potentially keeps him more engaged if you have to rely on him more offensively. Now, in the past, I don't know how successful those lineups have been is the issue. Are we sure that a Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton led lineup is going to... It should be able to kill opposing benches. But I'm not sure how often we've actually seen that. Like, I don't know what the data says for that. Yeah. Would it help keep Ayton more engaged, though? I talked about health. That's the other main concern going into the playoffs, right? Is Ayton just being the X factor and his head needs to be right every game.
Do you think Monty will still run some all bench lineups every once in a while, though?
I think enough that it's gonna
people freak out every time
it's
it
gonna
happens.
piss people off. Yeah, I almost look forward to freaking out about it and watching other people freak out about it. We need some drama.
This will be an easy question, I think, because you and I have talked about this just personally. Wendell Basillo said, who do y'all think is the most important bench player for the Suns post KD? Campaign, right?
Yeah. I think people actually have forgotten how good he was to start the season.
I think Campaign is the 5th best player on the Suns now. I think you could just kind of say it like that.
Look up the stats.
So if he's the 5th best player on the Suns, that's kind of, it kind of shows you how important he is.
He only played 28 games this year, right? So it's been a while, and with recency bias and everything, people forget. He's averaging a career high 12.1 points this year. Obviously, a lot of that is because he started half the games he's played. But like he's averaging a career high in assists too. I feel like we haven't talked about this all year. Campaign's having a career year in some ways, some respects.
I think he could be really important. And I hope when he comes back from injury, he plays well, and I hope he stays healthy because The Suns don't really have another point guard after him. They have 3 ball handlers now, so if they had to figure out how to run some lineups without him, that's fine.
He's just so effective as a catch and shoot guy at this point, though, that I'm not worried at all.
He's so effective as a catch and shoot guy. He can attack closeouts. He can make plays.
Yeah.
Not just for himself when he attacks those closeouts.
No.
And there's a lot of value in that. You put him next to Kevin Durant when Chris Paul comes out of the game early. That's pretty good. Those two are going to be good together, I think. Remember, you talk about Dario Saric unlocking Cameron Payne. Well, how about Kevin Durant? He does every single thing better than the crockpot.
Kevin Durant has to be pretty shocked, I would think, playing. Well, I guess Payne's not playing yet, so they probably he hasn't really seen him in practice, but it has to be
night. Teammates.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It has to be night and day between the last time they played in OKC. Cam Payne was a burger. He was a rookie. He was not an effective basketball player. He was most known for dancing next to Russell Westbrook. And now, per 36 here, he's averaging 18 points, 8 assists, good assist to turnover ratio, 38% from deep. He's a good NBA player now.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Bastion Q said, are the Suns the heroes or the villains after the KD trade?
To us, they're the heroes. And to everyone else,
everyone listening,
they're the villains.
You think they're the villains?
No. But
people hated that Nets team, man. People hated them.
I don't think they're villains per se, but no one's going to root for them. Who's going to root for, except for this strange wave of Kevin Durant stans who are following us on Twitter, which is
they're going to love Chris Paul. Those fans,
more of a hive,
because they're not used to watching Chris Paul on a day-to-day basis.
That's true.
I didn't like Chris Paul before he got to the Suns. You start watching Chris Paul and you're like, man, that dude's a genius.
Actually,
he's really fun to watch.
Some of them might hate Chris Paul because if they've really been following Durant for his entire career, then they probably hate Chris Paul from those Warriors Rockets.
Well, right
series.
Now they do. But they're going to like him once they start watching him.
Yeah. I think there's still a very small contingent of smart basketball writers and analysts and people who try to be objective out there, people who care about legacy and the history of the sport. Not legacy in a meme sense, but actually legacy. Those people will be happy to see Chris Paul win a championship. Yes. 95% of people, the casual fans,
he's got a lot of haters. Yeah.
Still do not like Chris Paul, still do not like Kevin Durant, and still do not like Devin Booker. And yes, it's true, by the way, that Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson were probably the 2 most likable guys on this team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they're gone. So, I've said this a million times over the past couple of years. It just continues to be even more the case. Just make your peace with being that villain. Embrace that role. Piss some people off online. It's not a big deal. Just understand, if you talk shit, I'm all for people talking shit. It's just if you dish it out, you need to be able to take it as well. That's my only rule.
Let's one more. You want to do one more?
Let's do one more.
This is just in the order I got here. This is Alex Golden, who is the host of a Pacers podcast on the Blue Wire Network. He said, what are your 3 biggest areas of concern for the Suns in the playoffs? I think we covered 1 already.
2, I think.
Health. What's the second one?
Ayton.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's number 2.
Health, Ayton.
Josh Okogie's 3-point shot.
I'm going to say I'm more worried about the defense than the offense. So depending on the matchup, it could end up being the defense. Do we have to find ways to take Chris Paul off the floor against starters because they're abusing him on switches, that kind of thing? I think defensively, the Suns have they have something to prove to us as people who watch every single game in the last 23 games or whatever it is for the rest of the season.
That's very fair.
Any other thoughts on that one?
That's very fair.
Dear God, please be healthy.
Yeah. Above all.
And not just the 4 guys. I want Cam Payne to be healthy too. We're going to need Josh Okogie to play a lot of games.
Landry Shamet, we need you. Step up.
Torrey Craig is like a Terminator. He always just, people fall into his legs every game and he just keeps playing. And we need that to continue.
TJ Warren, stay healthy. TJ Warren is a guy who takes a lot of falls, if you remember from when he was on the Suns, right?
Oh, I remember.
Mikal falls down a lot too, or fell down a lot. I guess I should talk about him in the past
Cam Payne and Dario Saric fell down a lot.
But TJ embraces contact and he falls. He's going to do it every game.
That's true. All right, that's all we got. That's a lot. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question. Thank you to everyone who gave us questions. I'm just scrolling through them right now. there's a lot of really interesting questions here that we'll just go back to this one when we run out of things to talk about in future episodes and use these questions, I think. And you know what? They're going to play soon, right? We're going to get to see it sometime, hopefully in the next week. And then we're going to get a better idea of what to talk about when it comes to this team.
I can't wait for that Thunder game. Man.
First game with Kevin Durant. We're doing on playback. We're going to do it. We've committed. Win. We don't know when it is. If it's the Thunder game, that'll be on playback. If he's not playing that game, we'll wait till the next game where we're going to do it on playback. We can all watch it together. So I can't wait. And thank you guys for listening. If you'd like to join our Patreon, you can join at patreon.com/thetimeline. Join our Discord for as low as $3 a month. Or if you'd like to get an extra podcast from us every week, $6 a month for that. And we'll be back with a Patreon podcast midweek. Thanks, guys, for listening. Back soon.